All right, everybody. Thank you very much for the slight delay there. I'll go ahead and call our April 21st, 2025 City Council meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Before we get started with our agenda, if you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, thank you. All righty, Ms. Trimble, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Yes, good evening. Anderson.
Present.
Becerra.
Present.
Campbell.
Here.
Carlino.
Present.
Farmer.
Present.
Jones.
Present.
Jordan.
Present.
Nelson.
Present.
Nugent.
Present.
Savage.
Present.
Cheryl.
Present.
And Vasika.
Present.
Everyone's here this evening.
Excellent. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you. So we have minutes from April 14th, 2025 as part of the council packet. Anybody have any questions or changes to those minutes? Nope. All right. Those minutes look to remain as submitted then. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to our committee schedule for this coming Wednesday, April 23rd. Ms. Trimble, do we have any changes to the committee schedule or anything that you wish to highlight?
No changes, but it is worth noting that we have a very long Budget and Finance Committee, that there is a noted lunch break in the middle. So it will not actually run that full duration of time, but we are beginning the day with Budget and Finance, and we'll go after lunch as well before we continue on to our additional committees.
Great, thank you. That schedule is posted online for folks to check out if they're interested. And yeah, that lunch break is from 10:50 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. Okay. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to our special presentations and proclamations. We don't have any neighborhood council updates this evening, but we do have some proclamations for the month. I'll go ahead and read those now. We'll start with the volunteer month, please. All righty. Here we go. Whereas volunteers are one of our country's greatest resources, and whereas volunteers adapt to the changing needs of the community, and they have continued to show their resilience and creativity in finding new ways to help people and encourage others. And whereas these volunteers improve the city of Missoula with their dedication, willingness to share time and expertise, and ability to meet community needs to make a lasting difference. And whereas we wish to honor and recognize volunteers collectively and the many contributions they make that enhance Missoula's quality of life. Now, therefore, I, Andrea Davis, Mayor of the City of Missoula, in the state of Montana, hereby recognize the month of April 2025 as Volunteer Month. And I don't believe Jane is here in the audience to say anything, just double checking. Okay. All right. Thank you to all of our community's volunteers. Next, we'll move on to our joint proclamation with Missoula County in honor of Earth Day. Okay, here we go. Whereas the climate crisis is caused by human activity, especially the burning of fossil fuels, and is harming people and natural systems locally and around the world through worsening environmental disasters, public health emergencies, and economic disruption. And whereas climate solutions like solar and clean energy are affordable, available, and create significant additional benefits like economic development, lower energy costs, and clean air and water. And whereas since its founding in 1970, Earth Day has united citizens around the world in a shared commitment to take action to protect our planet's natural systems and the people that rely on them. And whereas the City of Missoula and Missoula County have committed to climate action for many years in alignment with the 2015 Paris Agreement, have shared commitments to climate resilience via the Climate Ready Missoula Plan, and to achieving 100% clean electricity for the Missoula urban area by 2030, and are dedicated to policies and programs like our shared Electrify Missoula campaign that support the clean energy transition. And whereas the Earth Day 2025 theme of Our Power, Our Planet recognizes the urgent need for global investment in clean energy and energy savings. It also underscores the significant social, economic, and public health benefits of climate solutions within our county and offers a role for everyone to act. Now, therefore, we, the Missoula Board of County Commissioners and the City of Missoula in the state of Montana, do hereby recognize the 22nd day of April, 2025 as Earth Day and call on our communities, including all residents, businesses, and institutions to engage in the meaningful climate actions that are necessary to achieve our goals. Great. All right. Thank you very much. Anybody here for the Earth Day proclamation? I don't think so. This is a joint proclamation with the county. I'm not seeing anybody from the county here. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate that. We are going to move on to our public hearings. And our public hearings in section 5 of the agenda. State law and city council rules set guidelines for inviting community comment in a formal way on certain issues. Following a staff report on each item, the city council and the mayor invite community comment. City council holds a public hearing on the item. A member of council makes a motion and a vote is taken. The public hearing and vote take place on the same night unless there is a reason to hold the vote over to a later meeting date. Okay, so we've got 2 public hearings tonight. 5.1 is the annexation of 2100 Flynn Lane. And we do have Dave DeGrandpré here to present on that. Dave, we're ready whenever you are.
All right, thank you, Mayor Davis.
You bet.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. My name is Dave DeGrandpré with the City of Missoula Development Services Office. I work as a planning supervisor. And please let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see it now.
Wonderful.
You might want to expand it if you, there you go. There you go.
Does that work? All right, super.
Yeah, it's in the presenter mode. It's in slideshow. So we can see your other, if you want to mess with
Got
it.
it.
Just,
Right. Okay, how's that?
we're getting there. Give it just a second. Still showing your note slide.
Let's see.
Take your time.
Thanks. See if I can work this around. Forgive me.
That's okay.
All right, how's that?
That's great. Looks good.
Thank goodness. Okay. Well, sorry for the delay and thank you for your patience. My name is Dave DeGrandpré, Planning Supervisor with CPDI. So there are 2 related items on the agenda tonight. First, as the mayor said, is annexation of 2100 Flynn Lane and the zoning upon annexation to be 2-1 community business. And the second related item is the amended and restated development agreement between the City of Missoula and private developers. Starting with the annexation, Montana Code Annotated provides several ways for municipalities to add land to their municipal boundaries. In this case, The developer or the property owner, I should say, of a particular tract has voluntarily chosen to petition to annexation to the city limits. City council has authority over all additions or annexations. Council may impose conditions, and a public hearing, which is what we're conducting tonight, is required. The property itself is located east of Flynn Lane, north of Mullen Road, west of Mary Jane Boulevard, and south of the planned extension of O'Leary Street. The property is 1 acre in size and is described as Tract 1 of Certificate of Survey number 5023. On the slide, the city limits are shown in pink, so you can see that the property is wholly surrounded by city limits, including the right-of-way easements on the west side of the property, which is for Flynn Lane. The property is proposed to be developed along with Tract 4 of Certificate of Survey number 6817, which surrounds the property on 3 sides. And as I think you know, the area is quickly growing and developing with a range of residential housing types. One more item regarding Flynn Lane itself. So currently, it is developed with along the subject property, no curbs, no gutters, no sidewalks, no boulevard street trees or anything like that. It's basically 2 travel lanes. Here is a snip from the city's annexation policy map. You can see the subject property is an island of county property surrounded by the lighter yellow city limits. The property is located within annexation area A on the city's annexation policy map. Areas within annexation area A largely meet the guidelines of the annexation policy. And the policy states these areas should be prioritized for annexation. As I mentioned, the property is wholly surrounded by city limits, and per the annexation properties that would fill in gaps left by previous annexations that created islands of county property surrounded by the city should be prioritized for annexation. And then finally, the property is located within the city's utility service area boundary. It can be served by city water and sewer. It can also be served by police, fire, and other services, which are all emphasized in the city's annexation policy. The 2045 Our Missoula Land Use Plan is the guiding land use and planning document for the city of Missoula. The property is mapped. The place type for the property is urban mixed use low. And urban mixed use low place type is intended for areas with an urban residential feel, interspersed with a mix of commercial and cottage industrial uses. These areas offer a diversity of housing stock alongside moderate intensity commercial, where buildings range in size from house size, so think single family dwellings, up to large apartment complexes or even full blocks. Prominent building types within the urban mixed use low place type are 2 to 4 unit structures, townhouses, mixed use buildings, small storefronts, offices, and again, multi-dwelling apartment units and large apartment complexes. The 2045 land use plan provides 5 different zoning districts that are considered relatable or compatible with the urban mixed use low place type. These are B1, B2, B3, C1, and M1R, and the applicant has requested a zoning district upon annexation of B2-1, which complies with the 2045 land use plan. The property is also located within the Mullen Square neighborhood of the Swatupcane master plan. This is a regional plan for the area. The Swatupcane master plan is considered an attachment to the 2045 land use plan. And the Mullen Square neighborhood doesn't include a whole lot of specifics for how this property ought to be developed. It points out that the property is near offices or could be near office spaces. It's also, it indicates that the Helliott Elementary School is in close proximity, but otherwise really doesn't provide a ton of direction on how this property should be developed. Here's a slide showing both the existing and the proposed zoning. So in the county right now, the property is zoned NR. That stands for neighborhood residential. And as I mentioned, in the far right column, the proposed zoning is B2-1 community business. The density that's allowed within the city's zoning is considerably higher, up to 43 dwelling units per acre, while the county and our district allows up to 8 dwelling units per acre. But what's interesting is the land uses that are proposed, you see highlighted on the screen, not that are proposed, but that are allowed within both districts are very, very similar. They both allow all kinds of residential development, restaurants, financial services such as banks, food and beverage sales, galleries, home occupations, etc. So the land use, although the density within the city zoning is greater, the county zoning and the city zoning have almost identical land uses that are permitted. So under Montana law, when a city is considering annexing and zoning upon annexation of certain property, the law provides 3 specific criteria. And please note that only one of the criteria must be met under the statutory guidance that we have. And in this case, as I mentioned, the city zoning authorizes land uses that are very comparable to the land uses authorized under the county zoning classification that currently apply to the property. So the criterion is met. Staff proposes that council approve the annexation subject to 2 conditions. And I mentioned earlier that Flynn Lane isn't really developed to city standards. It's not a complete street as we think about pedestrian improvements, improvements along the boulevard, etc. So what staff is recommending is that the annexation be contingent upon these 2 conditions. One is that Flynn Lane be upgraded to include, really the driving lanes are in pretty good shape right now, so I don't see a lot of work needed there, but that there be a parking lane along the subject property on Flynn, there'd be curb and gutter installed, a landscape boulevard, sidewalk, and then street trees. And then to accommodate that, additional right-of-way easement is needed. And so the Public Works and Mobility staff has figured that 9.25 feet right-of-way easement along the western property boundary along Flynn are needed for, as I mentioned, the curb and gutter, landscape boulevard, and sidewalk. And as I mentioned, staff is recommending council approve and adopt a resolution to annex and incorporate with the boundaries of the city of Missoula, tract 1 of certificate of survey number 5023. Zone the property B2-1 community business, subject to the conditions of annexation approval and based on the findings of fact. And then if you don't mind, Mayor Davis, I think it makes sense to continue on to the amended and restated development agreement because these two projects and proposals go hand in hand.
Dave, that's fine. Thank you very much for checking in. Land Use Plan Chair, Councilor Nugent agrees.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You
And I'll
bet.
keep it rolling. This is, again, an amended and restated development agreement. So a development agreement is simply a contract governed under the laws of the state of Montana, and it is purely at council's discretion whether to approve an amendment to a development agreement. The development agreement currently says that no part of the agreement may be amended or deleted without the prior written consent of city council and the developers, their successors, and assigns. And in this case, all parties to the development agreement have already approved of the proposed amendments, minus the city of Missoula. And then in terms of background, there's actually a little bit to think about here. So for the councilors who weren't on city council in 2019, when this development agreement was adopted, it originally applied to, and still does apply to, 57.7 acres. Along with adoption of this development agreement was a growth policy amendment that changed the growth policy land use map designation from residential medium, 3 to 11 dwelling units per acre, to neighborhood mixed use. What that did was it provided some additional potential mixture of uses, commercial uses in addition to residential. It also allowed for a greater intensity or density of residential on the property. And along with that growth policy designation was a rezone, and the property was rezoned from Hellgate Special District to B2-1 Community District, again, allowing for a greater variety of land uses and intensity of residential development. As you can see, the 1 acre tract that we just heard about, tract 1 of certificate of survey 5023, was not included under this development agreement back in 2019. But along with the development agreement came this map, and this is a master site development plan. plan. So what that is it's a generalized development plan for the 57.7 acres. It includes two main areas. Area A with a residential density of up to 14 dwelling units per acre. That's in yellow. And then in orange, Area B provides for a density of up to 21 dwelling units per acre. And it also allowed neighborhood business commercial uses on what would be the left side here, adjacent to Mullen Road and with a future extension of Mary Jane Boulevard. So a lot has changed. Oh, and it also includes parkland, about 3.4 acres of parkland, along with some other small green spaces. So a lot has happened since 2019 with this property. Starting at the north, Hellgate Meadows East and West, that is a townhome exempt development that that allows for, or actually under construction and already constructed, are several different homes, primarily 1, 2, 3, and 4 unit homes. The rights of way for Mary Jane Boulevard running north-south through the property, as well as O'Leary Street running east-west, were platted. They didn't exist back in 2019, but they were platted and then created the additional lots. And on those lots, a lot of development has occurred. Missoula Loft Homes on Mary Jane Boulevard currently has preliminary subdivision approval, and it's planned for 42 single-dwelling homes and 120 multi-dwelling homes, along with 3.2 acres of parkland. Then in the southeast, the Snow Farm project, that's a multi-dwelling townhome development with 252 new homes planned. And the only undeveloped or unentitled, I should say, portion of the property is the southwest. That's the Affinity project, the subject of tonight's hearing. So that includes the 1 acre annexation tract, as well as the 8 acres surrounding it. So I'm glad to report, in summary, that the development in this area, on this 57 acres, really has adhered to the guidance in the development agreement. So I think it's been quite effective. The one kind of outstanding issue is no commercial has actually been developed on the property, and the development agreement sought to encourage a mixture of uses, but they just haven't come to fruition as of yet. So the amended and restated development agreement that's before you right now largely complies with the original development agreement, but it does have some additional changes. So the Inland Group, who is represented, I believe, here tonight in the audience, is proposing this certain changes to the development agreement. And what they hope to do in the blue area, Area C, is to build a 170 unit, 170, age-restricted community for people who are 55 and older on the blue area, Area C. And they also hope to include that 1 acre parcel, the annexation parcel, in this Area C. So the primary changes are: 1, multi-dwelling structure to contain all 170 future homes. The building would be 40 feet tall. In fact, they've already submitted building permits for the structures. We haven't acted on them, of course, because not all the area is within the city limits, but they've been submitted. They hope to increase the residential density up to 30 dwelling units per acre, and also have eventually on the right side, or the north side of the property, create a separate parcel using a boundary line relocation. That's an exemption from subdivision review, but to create a parcel at the intersection of a future extension of O'Leary Street and bordering Mary Jane and Flynn. And that could be used for neighborhood business uses. And then finally, through a negotiation with the City Community Development Department, Legal Department, as well as our staff and development services, the developer, in exchange for increasing the density in Area C, has agreed to donate to the City of Missoula's Affordable Housing Trust Fund $178,500. And the methodology for determining that amount, like I said, it was negotiated, but it's described in, I think it's Exhibit C of the amended and restated development agreement. And then one thing that's important to note is the development agreement amendment states that that the development agreement changes are contingent upon annexation of Tract 1, as well as rezoning it to B2-1. Staff recommends one condition of approval, and this mirrors one of the conditions from the annexation, and that is that the owner shall dedicate an additional 9.25 feet of right-of-way easement along the tract's western boundary. Again, this is O'Leary Street, as a standalone document within 180 days of execution of the amended and restated development agreement or prior to occupancy of the first new building on the parcel, whichever comes first. And again, the idea is to develop a complete street along Flynn, or at least along the subject property, where there would be not only the travel lanes, but a parking lane, curb and gutter, boulevard, and sidewalk along the street trees. And then this isn't exactly part of the, oh, and so staff recommends, of course, a motion to approve the proposed amended and restated development agreement, as well as to accept the monetary donation from the developers. And then lastly, the developer, I said, has submitted building permits and a site plan for the project that includes one main residential structure containing 170 apartments, primary access from Mary Jane Boulevard on the east side, and lots of amenities, including a pool house, dog park, fitness center, cafe, etc., and also a public greenway along the north side of the property. So that concludes my presentation for the evening, but I'm happy to answer questions. I know we have staff from the Community Development Department. We can talk about the methodology used to establish the monetary amount for the donation. And I know we have Public Works and Mobility staff as well here to talk about any particular issues regarding water, sewer, streets, what have you. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. de Grandpre. Appreciate your presentation. Are there any members of the development team that's here that wishes to make remarks? Come on up. Thank you, Dan.
Evening, Mayor Davis and council members. Thanks for the opportunity tonight to hear our request. We've been working on this project for quite some time with city staff and very excited to be here this evening to hopefully wrap up our entitlements and move forward with construction this summer. So as Dave mentioned, our project is active adult community for 55 plus and older residents. The Inland Group, although we're based out of Spokane, we own and operate our affinity communities throughout the Western United States, one currently in Billings. We're very excited to be finally in Missoula after looking at this city and market for quite some time, and we think found the perfect location for a successful community that can serve residents here in Missoula. One thing I just wanted to mention, there was a question during the Land Use Committee meeting. I forget which council member asked it about the 55 plus restriction in terms of fair housing or residency. Not sure who asked that, but just wanted to mention that specific senior developed communities are exempt through the Housing for Older Peoples Act in 1995, which exempted it out of the fair housing laws, where you can age restrict communities as long as they were purpose built for that intended demographic, which is what our affinity communities are today. So real briefly on just the demographics and who lives here and kind of what our communities typically look like, and then obviously I'm available for questions. But our median age is around low to mid 70s. Most of our residents, actually 60%, are selling their first home and moving into our communities. We're really looked at as that kind of first step into a retirement lifestyle. So we don't have typical services like you find in independent living communities, such as like a meal service on site or medical care. This is true active adult living. Our price points are a third typically of a typical senior living community like independent living or assisted living. And these are really for seniors who want less upkeep, want to be surrounded in a community for activities, maybe are still traveling, still volunteering in the community, but don't want the hassle and upkeep of their home, but can't afford or don't need that type of services you find in independent living or assisted living. So really we're that first step. Our communities are really fun to be in terms of just the amount of activity that's going on, whether that's, we have a woodworking shop on site, hobby crafts room that folks can use, as well as just all the fitness and pool and other amenities there on site. So again, very excited to be in Missoula and happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you for providing additional information. Would you please say your name for the record?
I'm sorry, yes, John Fisher,
John
with the
Fisher.
Inland Group.
In the Inland Group.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any questions for Mr. Fisher or Mr. de Grandpré from council? Councilor Carlino.
Yes, I was wondering if you could pull up the Exhibit C that you mentioned to come up with the calculation for the donation to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I don't see it attached onto the development agreement.
I see Kendra's here with CPDI staff. Are there other, or Parker potentially able to help answer that question?
Yes. Hi, this is Parker. Yeah, give me 1 sec to share it and I can pull it up.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully you can see that.
Yes, we can.
It's at the very bottom of the development agreement, if that helps find it too.
All right, thank you.
Give me a second to review that before we get down. Did I give you enough time to review that? No worries. I was just,
Yeah, thank
I
you
was
for
also
that.
reading it myself, so I was giving you a second there. Any additional questions, Councilor Carlino? Okay, great. Thank you. So, Councilor Farmer.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just curious about that public greenway. Is that open to like the general public? And then if so, is it city maintained or will it be maintained by the developer or
Yeah.
how does that work?
Yeah, it is a public use trail. So part of the original master plan development agreement specified trails and other parks within that plan. So it, not only with the trail, but also with the park dedication that the owners within there are doing to increase the size of parks in that particular area of the neighborhood. I need to refer to my colleague Andrew on the maintenance. Is that? Yeah, so it'll be maintained by us, but available to the public.
Thank you.
All right, you bet. And Councilor Becerra.
Thank you. I actually have a question as a follow-up to Mr. Colino's question. The math and the calculation makes sense to me, but I guess I'm not very well educated on how the formula for the price index is arrived at. And, you know, I'm happy to follow up on this later, but it might be interesting to know what is it that we are calculating? Is it the price of a home change over a time period, or what is the actual fee based on? Because in the past, we have also used measures like the number of additional units that are allowed per the change in zoning as a reference for calculating that. So if staff has just a really plain, simple way to explain it, that would be great. If not, I can follow up.
Thank you, Councilor Becerra. Parker or Kendra, either of you able to help answer that question?
Yes, yeah, and again, this is Parker. Yeah, so our methodology for determining the fee for the cash in lieu donation is based on that density bonus, and it's calculated in-house by CPDI housing staff. We use a price indexed formula, so that methodology ultimately for, depending on the number of bedrooms in a unit, it has a certain price associated with it. And this methodology is a common practice for in lieu fee pricing used across the states. And we developed it in 2023 and ran it past an internal ad hoc working group of city leadership to review and create those recommendations on how that price indexed model operates. But ultimately, a percentage of that set aside of the density bonus. So a certain number of units from those additional units that are given to the project then have a fee multiplied against them. And that's how we arrive at that number. I hope that answers that question.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Did you have additional questions, Councilor? No? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Councilor Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I would just kind of ask the staff to walk us through why this project, we were able to get this generous donation or good fee for the Housing Trust Fund, because this sort of question comes up on a lot of our projects, and I know there's some state laws around inclusionary zoning, and this doesn't apply to that, but I think it'd be good to specify for the public what criteria this project meets that others might not.
I appreciate that, Councilor. Is that Mr. Webb, you or Mr. de Grandpré for that question?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it. And just
All right.
for a little bit of context, this project started before I was hired on at the city. But ultimately, so unlike inclusionary zoning, where the amount of affordable units is required in law, we have a voluntary incentives program. And so we have incentives at the city that developers can opt into. And so one of those is a density bonus. So this developer, in exchange for that density bonus, opted in, and instead of providing those affordable units on site, that's where that cash in lieu fee to the trust fund comes from.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for asking that question. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Webb. Do we have any other council questions for staff or for the development representatives? All right, I'm not seeing any then. So then we will go ahead and we will, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and hear the motions then, and I would imagine Councilor will hear them separately.
Yeah, I'll put them both on the floor and then I think we'd vote on them separately.
That sounds great.
Time comes. All right. I move City Council adopt a resolution to annex and incorporate within the boundaries of the City of Missoula Tract 1 of Certificate of Survey number 5023, located in Section 18, Township 13 North, Range 19 West, Missoula County, Montana. PMM is shown on Exhibit A, and zone the property B2-1 Community Business, subject to the conditions of annexation approval based on the findings of fact in the staff report. I further move City Council adopt a motion to approve the proposed amended and restated development agreement between HEH LLC, Mullen Land Holding LLC, and Missoula Mary Jane 2 LLC, the Snow Farm Project Property Owner LLC, and the City of Missoula, and to accept a cash in lieu payment of $178,500 to the City of Missoula's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, subject to one condition of approval based on the findings of fact in the staff report.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Nugent. So these two motions are made for this project. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing and invite the public to comment on both motions for this project now. Anybody wishing to come on up to the microphone, please identify yourself by saying your names for the record, please. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody in the room. Anybody online? Anybody online wishing to make public comment on these agenda items? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody online either. So that wraps up our public hearing. We'll bring it back to council comment and or additional questions. Any additional council comment or questions? Councilor Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Grandpré, for the clarification on the matter of non-discrimination. That was the council that brought that up during committee. I appreciate that, and you know, I always knew there was non-exempt basically for like assisted living for seniors, like we have with Hunters Glen or the Springs or Village or what have you. But this being an apartment complex, I wasn't entirely sure how that works. I appreciate the clarification on that. I think part of it comes back subconsciously. Maybe I'm somewhat traumatized with 55 and over communities, even though I am one of them. But I grew up in an area next door to 55 and over community, and it was a gated community, as many of them are in Southern California. And they had a swimming pool, and I was in 5th grade at the time, and our apartment complex did not. So we were constantly jumping the fence and then getting yelled at and kicked out and threatened with calling the police. And of course, that really didn't deter me, particularly on hot days in the summer, from once again jumping the fence and going over into area where I'm not supposed to be, because I was clearly not 55 and over at the time. But anyway, so maybe there's some of that play in my subconscious in this particular project. But with everything in mind, with all that aside, on a serious note, I'll just say, yeah, I'm in support of this. I think it's a win for the 55 and over community here in Missoula. It's a win for our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and overall, it's good for Missoula. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Campbell. Thank you for that story. It's take it to the stay off my lawn question. All right, Councilor Nugent.
Thanks. I'll say if Counselor Campbell gets caught trespassing into your pool, please let us know so that we can read the police report. I would just say I appreciate this project coming forward, and I think we often get questions about how all the different housing that we bring online kind of fits into the puzzle. But Montana is one of the, if not the oldest state in the union, and this is something where this is going to fill a need. And my hope is that, one of the things we've learned in this code reform process and all the community outreach is that Missoula has a subset of our population that's very overhoused, where we have people who have empty nesters, and they, for whatever reason, don't feel that there are options for them to downsize, which then creates a churn problem in our markets. And we are seeing that impact in schools in some of our more traditional single-family neighborhoods or residential neighborhoods that are seeing enrollment declines because people aren't leaving their houses, and it's this whole cycle. So I think if anybody asks kind of why and where this fits in, I think this is a good project to maybe help address some of those needs with the aging population, but also hopefully create some churn in our housing market. And I appreciate it being brought forward.
Thank you for your comments. And Councilor Anderson.
Thanks so much. Good news, Counselor Campbell, you can actually go live there and have the swimming pool anytime you want to use it. So anyways, I just, first of all, I want to thank Mr. de Grand Prix for, I really appreciate slide 7 and how you laid it out and comparing the different changes in zoning. I think that should just be a standard practice, because it just, I think that there's a lot of concern when zoning changes come, that it's drastically going to change what was potentially there before. And I think that this one really shows that it wasn't, and it actually fits in line with our housing goals and our growth policy. So I just wanted to make a note to point that out and say thank you for that. I really appreciated it. And yeah, to echo what Council Member Nugent said, we are actually the oldest state west of the Mississippi, but we are not the oldest state in the country. But yes, we are still very old, and I do agree that this sounds like the perfect kind of transition. I think about my grandparents, who I helped transition throughout their various housing forms, and I will be doing that with my parents. And this sounds like just the perfect place for that middle, when you're not wanting to mow the half-acre lawn, but yet you aren't quite ready for mushed peas. So thanks for bringing this, and we're all just being comics tonight, apparently. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor, for your comments. And Councilor Becerra.
I do have one quick question for Dave. And that is the cash in lieu. I think it's stated that it'll be paid prior to issuance of any building permit. So it will be paid in its entirety, or will it be paid as units get developed? And I'm only asking because we just went through our last round of the Unified Grant application process. And so it'd be great to know, kind of just, forecast that funding as projects are desperately needing some more of those funds.
Good question.
Yep, thank you, Councilor Becerra. The idea is that the $178,500 would be paid in one lump sum prior to occupancy of the residential structure.
Great, thank you. And I just want to say thank you to Dave and staff, and also to the developer. I know that there are so many different moving pieces in getting any development done in this area, so I truly appreciate that. And I also think that this type of housing is needed in our community. I think we need to build different kinds of housing opportunities for everyone across the age brackets. So I think this is a welcome type of development in Missoula and in this area. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you for your question and your comments, Councilor Becerra. Any additional questions or comments from council members before we take a vote on this? Okay, not seeing any, then Ms. Trimble will do a roll call vote independently if we'll take these motions separately, please.
All right, beginning with item 5.1, the annexation of 2100 Flynn Lane. Beginning with Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
and Vasika.
Yes.
And that passes unanimously with 12 in favor, none opposed. Moving on to item 5.2, the amended and restated development agreement for Flynn Lane, beginning with Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
and Anderson.
Yes.
That also passes with 12 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That wraps up those two agenda items, our public hearing. I want to thank our staff for working on this project. I want to thank the sponsors and the developers of this project. It is something that will add to the housing amenities of our community and certainly will be serving many people for generations to come. So thank you for your patience. I know it's been a long time coming and it's good to be here. Good to be at this point. You bet, absolutely. That wraps up our public hearings for agenda item number 5. We'll move on to number 6, which is new business. And we do have a new business item this evening. This would normally have been presented in the Public Safety and Operations Committee, and we're bringing it here this evening. It did not make it to committee, and so I will hand it over to Chair Anderson, if that's okay, in lieu of a staff report. Is that okay?
Yep, that's
Great.
absolutely fine.
All
Thanks, everybody. This is not necessarily a standard thing because we haven't been hiring a lot of firefighters, but you'll start to see more and more of this in the coming next year and a half. And so basically, firefighters Austin Ray and Scott Ostrander, gosh, sorry guys, have completed their year of probation, gone through all of the necessary training, attended the academy, and have are ready to be confirmed as fully fledged firefighters with the Missoula Fire Department. These two folks were hired prior to the passage of the levy to replace a couple of retirements, and we are excited for them to be fully on board. And again, thank you so much to them for their call to public service, and for the training division has really taken on a lot within the Missoula Fire Department to get not only these folks up and going, but the class of 20 new firefighters through the whole process, and making sure that they are well trained, and that is make sure they get home safely every day and make sure that they can provide life-saving assistance to our community. So I would like to make the recommended motion to confirm Austin Ray and Scott Ostrander as firefighters to the city of Missoula, and happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Counselor Anderson. So the motion is on the floor. This is new business. So we will go ahead and see if there is any public comment on this before we bring it back to council questions or comment. Any public comment tonight? Not seeing any. How about any public comment online? Okay, I'm not seeing any public comment either. Thank you for making that motion. We'll bring it back to council, and we have Counselor Becerra.
I'm sorry, that's a residual hand.
Okay, no,
Take it down.
no worries. Counselor Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Are the new firefighters here with us tonight?
They're not, I don't believe.
Oh.
I think there was a tiny bit of scheduling snafuing. They thought that this was going to be on next week's Public Safety, Health and Operations Committee, and there is no Public Safety, Health and Operations next week. And so people farther up my pay grade or pay scale than me put it on, decided to put it on new business today. And so I think that that's a part of why they're not here. Normally they would be here and we would be able to thank them in person, but yeah.
I have a comment when appropriate.
It's appropriate now. Counselor Campbell, go right ahead.
Okay, I'd just like to say, it used to be a regular thing, police officers and firefighters like coming here to get confirmed. Usually it's done in person. We get a chance to meet the new firefighter, new police officer. And I notice it hasn't been done with any sort of regularity. It's great to get, looks like we're kind of getting back into that mode again. I'm not gonna make a big deal of this case here tonight, but in the future, I would like to see that reinstated and have the folks here so we have a chance to just see who they are and congratulate them and do it face to face.
All right, great. Thanks for your comment. Duly noted. I'll make sure I pass it on to our fire chief and police chief. And you're right, you know, with the levy passing and the SAFER grant, we will be seeing more folks come through council chambers. All right, any other council comments this evening? All right, not seeing any. Not seeing any additional council comments, then we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item, please.
All right, voting for the confirmation of the two new firefighters to the city of Missoula, beginning with Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Masika,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
and Becerra.
Yes.
And that passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much, folks. Appreciate that. We'll move on to our consent agenda, and if you will go ahead and share that on screen, Miss Trimble. We'll walk through the items in our consent agenda here.
All right, you ready?
We're ready.
On this evening's consent agenda, we have a motion to approve accounts payable for checks dated April 22nd, 2025 in the amount of $1,904,420.13. We have a motion to approve a resolution relating to up to $6,801,000 water sewage revenue bonds from the DNRC Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Program, which are SRF bonds, consisting of $466,000 for Series 2025A bond, $904,000 for Series 2025B bond, $1,024,000 for Series 2025C bond, $1,400,000 for Series 2025D bond, $1,503,000 for Series 2025E bond, and $1,504,000 for Series 2025F bond and authorizing the issuance and fixing the terms and conditions thereof. We have a motion to award the Bitterroot Outfall Project bid to Diggett Excavating at a cost not to exceed $364,925 and authorize the return of bid bonds. We have a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement with DJ&A for engineering consulting services on the Flynn Mullen Path TA project at a cost not to exceed $347,601.94. We have a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a professional services agreement with WGM Group for intersection control evaluation and alternative concept development services for the West Broadway Tool, California project at a cost not to exceed $83,546. And finally, on tonight's consent agenda, we have a motion to set a public hearing for Monday, May 5th, 2025, to consider a resolution granting the approval of the City of Missoula Unified Application Round Year 25 awarding Affordable Housing Trust Fund Home Investment Partners Program Home and Community Development Block Grant CDBG funds to certain organizations, directing staff to negotiate contracts and agreements, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contracts and agreements with said organizations.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda tonight? Any public comment on the consent agenda? Okay, not seeing any. How about online? Do we have any members of the public wishing to make comment on any item on the consent agenda tonight? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Do we have any council members that wish to separate an item? Do we have any abstentions? All right, I'm not seeing any. Great, then we can do a roll call vote, please.
Voice vote?
Sorry, I mean, that's what I meant. Thanks.
Yeah.
Just checking to
All
see
right.
if, you know.
Doing a voice vote on consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you, Claire. Appreciate that. Okay, that wraps up our consent agenda. We don't have any regular business tonight. So our next item is number 10, the state legislature update. Jessica Miller is here to share that with us.
Good evening, everybody. Jessica Miller with Central Services. There was no, the legislature did not meet today. It's part of their Easter break. They will resume tomorrow. That will be Legislative Day 79. Day 90 of the session is still scheduled to be May 5th, 2 weeks from tonight. Sounds like the temperature in Helena is that they will likely try to adjourn before that, but we don't have a set date yet. There's still quite a bit that they need to accomplish. This will be my last Monday evening report because there is no council meeting next week, and then by May 5th, again, the legislature will be adjourned. So I will be bringing a longer report, a comprehensive download of the session to a committee of the whole meeting after some of the bills have leveled out and we see whether or not Governor Gianforte has signed, vetoed, et cetera. So at some point in May or early June, depending on the timing of the signing of some of those bills, I'll be bringing that report. We have reached the time of year where a lot is going on really fast. Entire bills are being inserted into other bills. Some of this happens during committee meetings. A lot of it happens in the hallways in between sessions. And so this is where we really rely very heavily on our lobbyists to let us know what is coming down the pike and you know, what we can anticipate. They really keep us informed in all the things that are happening before they hit the state's computer system, because quite often, sometimes votes will occur 10 minutes after they're available to us in the system. So we really rely on our lobbyists a lot to let us know what's going on. Let's see. So as far as specific bills, last week I was incorrect about SB 90. I thought that it had been blasted to the floor. That motion had actually failed. So SB 90, what did not come to the floor at all. I believe that there were 3 last attempts to bring it from committee onto the floor, and all 3 of those failed. However, portions of SB 90 have been partially incorporated into HB 924, which is a large state spending bill. I don't know what the prognosis of that bill is, but some of the sentiment of SB 90, which is tourist dollars going to property tax relief, is in that larger, more comprehensive bill. Senate Bill 2, which is, again, one that has us concerned for the treatment of urban renewal districts upon their expiration. That bill is going to a conference committee this week, and so our lobbyist is keeping us up to date on what the composition of that committee will look like, and hopefully keep tabs on where that bill is going to land. House Bill 231, which is Governor Gianforte's primary property tax bill, was actually defeated and then reconsidered and will be placed back on second reading tomorrow. However, that bill has had portions of it incorporated into Senate Bill 542. That bill is still controversial because there are some provisions for Billings and Sunburst, the way they have their charters. They have fixed levies, so whereas if our property taxes vary widely, we can kind of float our mills. Billings and Sunburst don't have that, and so there's some backfilling being made available at the state level. So those portions of House Bill 231 and Senate Bill 542 are one of the things that remain kind of contentious. And Senate Bill 542 is just the prime example of what begins to happen this time of year. Senate Bill 542, the original version was 2.5 pages. And then it was amended, and version 2 is 45 pages because it has had other property tax bills inserted into it. So big movement and big changes this time of year. So we'll just kind of see how those play out, and I look forward to bringing a comprehensive report to Committee of the Whole, and with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Any questions from council? Councilor Anderson.
Can I make a comment?
Please,
Yeah,
absolutely. Sorry,
don't have
or-
a question, I have a comment. I just, thank you, Jessica. This, I have been involved in a lot of legislative sessions, and this one particularly is like level 5 insanity. And so the fact that I have seen the spreadsheet that you have been tracking, and I have been only tracking a fraction of those, and it is incredibly difficult to keep track of all the various moving parts. And you are right, literally things are happening on the fly moments before. So really appreciate you tracking all of this, being there for questions, getting information that we needed when we're being asked by legislators that we know for it. So I'm hoping you have a vacation planned after this, as I hope everyone involved in the legislative session has. And, you know, it's been really difficult to see some of the deals that have been cut and some of the ways that our, especially Missoula legislators, are voting on certain things, having meaningful property tax reform. I don't believe at the end of the day there will be meaningful property tax reform or meaningful fundamental tax reform, which is a huge missed opportunity. I think that there's going to be very large trust funds created that have a very nebulous scope of what exactly it's supposed to do. We are blessed at the moment to have a surplus, and I think that we've really missed some opportunities to really make some changes and invest in ways that will actually help make Montana affordable for Montanans. But that is the nature of the beast, I guess, and look forward to having some accountability conversations with some legislators afterwards to really, you know, it is unfortunate with Senate Bill 90. That was really actually a bill that would have made a difference for average homeowners. You would have seen a direct rebate on your property tax bill. It is the closest thing we've been able to come to get tourism dollars to go to property tax relief. The current bills that are working their way through all have a application mechanism in it, which, you know, I do think disadvantages people who are elderly and may not be computer savvy, or people who are low income who don't have access to regular computer, or just are really busy living their lives and can't track when things are due and when applications are due. And I just think that, you know, it's easy to get lost about some of those details when you're in the building and in the rat race, but we're hoping that they are there to actually make people's lives easier. And, you know, I'm thankful that Medicaid was reauthorized, but I think there was a lot of missed opportunities. But none of this is a reflection on all the great work that Jessica is doing and our lobby team. I mean, it is fast and furious and nuts. So looking forward for it to be over.
Yeah, boy.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Really appreciate it. Counselor Anderson and Counselor Becerra.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Beat me to it. I just wanted to say thank you to Jessica for all your work on this, for keeping us updated, and also for the spreadsheet. I find that to be a really useful tool. I know that in more than one occasion I have sent that link to constituents. So I appreciate all the work that goes into keeping that updated. And yeah, just thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Becerra. Any other comments or questions from council members? Okay. All right. Ms. Miller, thank you. We are very grateful for the level of effort that you make to help us track what's happening with the state legislature. Looking forward to the report that you'll bring back after it concludes. Thank you very much. Okay, that wraps up our state legislature update then. And so we'll now move on to public comment on non-agenda items. We offer folks 3 minutes to come up and provide public comment, and it are items that are not on the agenda but are within the purview of City Council. So we'd appreciate you saying your name for the record. Come on up.
Big K, Montana, Spitzmacher. Well, I'm sorry I didn't have Betty dressed up in the silk skirt and nightie coming out of her wallow, as I heard as I was entering by the Chomanites, to be respectful to you on this wonderful proclamation, sexual assault action. Well, I had some action this weekend. The Gold Creek Christian Mennonites got entertained by what I'm going to call the Poverello Gala anthem. And it was recorded on 911 when, what's its name? Robert, the main hug of March 16th of when I walked in and I dialed 911 and they're sticking it to me for dialing 911. I had the opportunity to tell the judge today it's headed for a jury trial. Trespassing of what I called North Korea Russian Embassy, 1110 West Broadway. And the fact of the matter is, I wouldn't have been there today if it wasn't for March 16th of dialing 911 and Robert and his associates called comrades sticking it to me. So when I was under arrest at the meeting in front of the Gold Creek Christian Mennonites feeding that I didn't get injured there, I had to tell the officer, thank you, after I said he was raping me in regards to the fact that I'm trespassed for calling 911. And when I was leaving, I said some nice words for his enjoyment. And I said about that ID in regards to the Utah State Troopers that they couldn't find on that delicious Poverello Gala anthem on what they couldn't find. And it gets even better yet. This individual was in front of Mountain Line, and Tyler was there for my interview, and he says, well, it's a police matter. Give them a call. Better yet, at 10:09, I walked over to 3 435 Ryman, and I sat there for over an hour calling 911 3 times whether I was going to get an interview on this individual that sang the Poverello Gala anthem. You'll have to get a copy of it from 911.
Thank you, Mr. Montana. Any other members of the public wishing to make public comment this evening? Not seeing any in the room. Are there members of the public online who wish to make public comment? Chris, please. You can unmute on your side. Chris K. Looks like I've got you unmuted on this side here. Double checking here. I do believe we checked after last week to make sure we didn't have any technical issues. Claire, Mary, right there, we didn't find anything on our side that wasn't enabling participants to call in.
Not if they're on the Teams meeting. We actually did find that there was a licensing issue related to our phone call-in numbers, but that is working correctly now.
Okay, all right, thank you for that clarification, I appreciate that. But folks that are in the meeting, and Chris K, you are in the meeting, and so I'm gonna go ahead and tap you again, see if hopefully that mutes you from this side, if you can unmute on your side. Looks like your hand is down. Give me another second here to see. Chris, if you can join us. Okay, doesn't appear that, Chris, we're going to be able to hear from you this evening. I'm sorry about that. Okay. All right, well, that does wrap up then our public comment. I don't see any other members of the public online raising their hand. I don't see any other members in the room here. So that wraps up our public comment on non-agenda items. Thank you. Okay. We'll shift into communications from the mayor. I wanted to give a brief synopsis for the council here. We held the State of the Community today in our local library. The theme was local action, local impact. I was honored to join County Commissioner Juanita Vero and University of Montana President Seth Bodner. And it was an opportunity. It was a full room. The room is not as many people as the DoubleTree can accommodate. Generally, that space has been used for City Club for a number of years. It's under construction, so not available. But it was a full room. It was great to see so many community members there. My remarks, just in brief summary here, focused on the city of Missoula continuing to lead in an intentional and responsive way that we will as local government, in particular right now when other governments seem to be chaotic, and we will continue to be serving our residents with integrity and transparency and thoughtful decision making. I have covered my priorities here with you as City Council, so I did review those same priorities today at the State of the Community. So again, a responsive local government for better public service, addressing the cost of living and strengthening our local economy, and improving housing choice and affordability. And then had an opportunity to dig into a couple little details here and there about what each of those means, and highlighting some things from our national community surveys and others. And sharing some examples of things that we've been able to achieve in terms of meeting those goals. Like, for example, when, as examples that I like to think about when we are a local responsive government, it's everywhere from a more functioning website for our residents and resident portals to also pivoting when things come at us, like, for example, when we have housing prices that surge incredibly like they have in the last several years, how we're addressing that through our land use plan update and our development code updates, or when there are things like large employers that close up shop. So like when the Roseburg facility and that particle board manufacturer chose to close shop, we pivoted there, working with the university, working with our partners with Missoula Economic Partnership to make sure that those employees did receive job training and opportunities for reconnecting with new employment in Missoula. And we were really pleased to see that that happened. And so just reporting out on things like that affect our residents. And again, it was an opportunity just to highlight some of the great work we've all been doing together, and looking forward to how we're going to continue working on this space. We had a lot of questions from the public in regards to the chaos people are feeling and the concerns at the federal level. And of course, we talked a bit about how we are managing that from local government and the university. It all differs depending on if it's with the city, the county, or the university. But it was a good conversation, and ultimately an opportunity to highlight the ways in which we are multi-solving here at the local level on a number of different fronts. So for folks that could watch it, thank you for being there. If you weren't able to, Missoula Community Access Channel did film the entire production, and it's available on YouTube. So if anybody's interested, it's available there. I just wanted to say congratulations to the International Wildlife Film Festival. They're celebrating their 48th year. The Wild Walk Parade was this weekend. It was a lot of fun. I was really pleased to be in the parade dressed as a bee, and then made comments at the end. And it's just a really fun event to hang out with a bunch of folks that are dressed up, and it's a very unique Missoula experience. The films are continuing on through the 24th. So if you haven't had a chance to catch any of them, there's plenty of films at the Roxy, and there's some really great stuff. I want to mention that tomorrow is Earth Day. I read the proclamation. Just want to make sure that folks have on their radar. There is I understand that there's a gathering at the university. There'll be a procession walking to the courthouse, and then there will be some remarks made on the courthouse steps celebrating Earth Day and rallying around this effort tomorrow, and I'll share a few words there. Lots of stuff happening in Missoula. There was another community gathering on the courthouse this weekend, so folks are definitely taking it to the streets. Power to the people. A lot of things happening. It's good to see Missoulians continue to do so in a really respectful and safe manner, and I appreciate that. So I just want to thank folks that are rallying and protesting to do so in a way that keeps all community members safe. So thank you for that. And with that, I'll turn it over to City Council for your comments, and I'll start with Councilor Savage tonight.
I'll pass. Thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Councilor Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. Just kind of something along the lines of what we were talking about with the state legislature and kind of current events. Ms. Anderson mentioned that the state legislature approved re-up Medicaid expansion, which is a big deal. And that impacts so much of what we do at the local level. But I really think that it's important, you're talking about people rallying, that people are paying attention to what's happening at the federal level right now, because nothing that we debate around this horseshoe when it comes to providing services to our community and helping individuals who may need a little extra help will get any easier if the outlined cuts to Medicaid and Medicare at the federal level come to fruition. I think that maybe some of this is taken for granted. I might be preaching to the choir around this table, but Medicaid provides health coverage to more than 70 million people. That's 23% of the total U.S. population. 40% of all births in the United States are covered by Medicaid or CHIP. Medicaid accounts for 19% of all U.S. healthcare spending. Hospitals in expansion states saw substantial drops in uncompensated care costs and improved financial stability, especially in rural areas, which is what all of Montana is, including our towns that we don't consider rural. I think that that coverage is, that it leads to better care outcomes is good for all Americans, but it's something that is at risk right now. And if those cuts at the federal level happen, like I said, everything we talk about will only get worse. So I just want to put a call out to people who maybe they're on the fence about paying attention or not. You don't have to go to a rally, but call your representatives at the federal level and talk to them about Medicaid. I have heard from people who have talked to our delegation, and their staff is basically saying, please keep calling, please keep bringing this up because they need to hear it. So that's my message for today.
All right. Thank you, Counselor Nugent. And Counselor Farmer.
Thanks. Just a friendly reminder that we have a special election. Everyone should have their ballot pretty soon. And this is voting on school board trustees. And they are a very important piece of the planning that's happening. And so if you don't know who to vote for, there's plenty of press that you can do your research. And it's a tight turnaround. So they do need ballots in, I believe, by May 6th. So just be prepared and ready to vote and turn in your ballot. And happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you for that. All right. And Counselor Anderson.
Thanks so much. And just to quickly piggyback on what Mr. Nugent said, I think the other thing we need to be aware of is the fact that the Medicaid reauthorization here at the state level has triggers in it if the federal match drops below, I believe it's 90%, and everything that all the indicators out of the federal government is their plans would actually trigger all of that. So this is not us being hyperbolic. This is something that could, base it, and it's really a dollars and cents thing. I think that there's a lot of talk around the especially in the Capitol this year of like, oh, it's so great that they reauthorized Medicaid expansion. Well, the governor had it in his budget to begin with because it made fiscal sense for our state. It's not a benevolent thing on his part. It is a dollars and cents thing on his part. And so I think that we, like I said, have a surplus at the state. We do not at the city level. And we are continually being asked to do more and more that is beyond what the scope of municipal government was designed to do. And those pressures will only get greater, and it will make it harder and harder for us to deliver the core services that we are charted or, entrusted with. And more of our community members are going to be struggling. So, it's hard to pay attention now. I know that, but plug in where you can. And if you do call the representatives' offices, remember that their staffers are most likely under the age of 30 and making pittance. And so they're just taking the message, but be kind to them. I know many of the people who have served in those positions at various levels, and that is not an easy job. It is important to call in, but just remember that you're not talking to the representative yourself. You're talking to probably a very nice staff person who has answered thousands of those other previous calls. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Counselor Milson.
I'll pass tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Counselor Carlino.
I'll also pass. Thanks.
Okay, you bet. And Counselor Jordan.
Thank you. I have a comment. I just wanted to speak to a little bit about what others have spoken to regarding kind of the speeches that we've all been hearing this last week. For me personally, I was able to go see Bernie and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and because Daniel Carlino worked so hard, we were able to get reserved seating and actually meet them, which was an amazing experience. So thank you, Daniel, for doing that. So then today I went to a city club where we've heard a little bit about that with Mayor Davis and Commissioner Vero and the President Bodner from the university. Today's talks from the local government representatives spoke of improving services using data and ensuring measurable results. They also spoke to fulfilling the social contract that government has with the people to provide a quality public service, and also ensuring inclusive prosperity where everyone has the opportunity to access quality public education. AOC and Bernie spoke to demanding a government that operates in the best interests of all of us, not just a few billionaires. And all of the rallies across the nation where people are demanding a social safety net and accountability and transparency from their government. There's a really clear message coming from all these different avenues. The status quo has got to go. Taxpayers want their tax dollars to provide a social safety net that is provided by the government. For me, it's really encouraging to have a united message coming from our local government representatives and from some members of Congress and from the people that we all represent here in Missoula. And I've heard power to the people several times. And basically what power to the people means is that government is elected by citizens. Citizens vote for their government officials, and these officials represent citizens' ideas and concerns in government. So indeed, power to the people. Let's keep demanding a social safety net from our government. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Jordan. Counselor Jones.
I just wanted to follow up on the mayor's comments regarding City Club. It was a great presentation today from the three entities, University of Montana, county, and our city government. Lots of good information, lots of good work going on. What I thought was interesting is for the table talk component, where each table comes up with a question to then ask the presenters. 90% of those questions were about the impact of the federal cuts on our community. And there was a lot of specific information that was relayed. University of Montana's cut over 75 people to date because of those cuts. The county has had 3 really key employees that their funding is very much in jeopardy, and they are a big part of providing that social safety net. There are also a lot of grants that the county is very worried about getting. And at the city, we are constantly evaluating what we will and what we won't get with these cuts. So across the board, the folks that attended that event, there's a huge amount of concern about these cuts, the approach that was taken with these cuts, which it's much easier to cut stuff when you do not do the hard work to understand the impacts. Much easier to cut, as opposed to having a holistic understanding of what the ramifications will be downstream with all of these cuts. So I just wanted to pass that on. I think our community is paying attention to this. I agree. People need to be calling their federal representatives. I think this is happening across America, but when you drill down and get the specifics of what the cost to our community, it is not good. And I think this is the long game. We're going to be in this for a long time. So people need to pay attention and advocate.
Thank you, Counselor Jones. Counselor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had occasion last week to spend approximately 45 minutes down West Broadway, near the island down there, along West Broadway for a cleanup that was scheduled for that area there all day. I believe it was last Thursday. I got there approximately 10 a.m., so they just got about 2 hours into it. But I had a chance to go in, hard hat, vest, and all, and survey the area. I spoke with folks from police department, spoke with folks from street department, MDT, code enforcement, and I was able to take a tour within the bounds of the cleanup area, at least as it was that morning. In this case, it was everything at that particular time between the Railroad Trestle Bridge and the California Street footbridge. And this is just my personal opinion, my personal observations, but the whole entire riverbank there was a complete and utter disaster area, both in terms of debris, garbage, public safety hazard, and in my estimation, an ecological disaster from all the garbage in that area down there. They had a crane set up. If you go to my social media, see photos I took in the area there, but they had a crane set up, and I'm not sure how many thousands of dollars an hour we spent for that crane. Sent in basically a giant plastic dumpster down the embankment there because it's so steep and so dangerous. The first thing I asked when I was there was, is everybody okay? Everybody being safe? Everybody taking their time? Because the embankment is just so steep along West Broadway there, particularly close to Trestle Bridge. I mean, it was amazing that these folks were able to go down there and do this in a safe manner. And I think the crane was helpful in sending those dumpsters down, the plastic dumpsters down to scoop that stuff up. People would take the debris and put it in the container and then hoist it back up to be put on a dump truck. But, do that again and again and again. I think even at 10 a.m., Charmel mentioned, this is like the 15th load they're bringing up with debris from down there. And I know local media outlet talked about 3 tons. To me, it seemed like there was at least 3 tons still down there by the time I got down there that morning. But there was everything down there. There were sharpened carts, there were needles, there were bicycles. So for whatever reason, a record turntable sitting down there. I saw furniture down there, tarps. It was just a disaster. And it looked like it was going to take them all day to clean that up. In fact, I think they didn't get out of there till like 5, 6 o'clock that evening. Spoke with police, spoke with the hazards that were in place down there. And to me, going forward, I think we need to do better to, keep folks out of there. It creates a hazard for campers, creates a hazard for community at large, creates an ecological disaster for people that are flowing the river or looking for recreational activities down there. And, hopefully, this being the first summer where urban camping ordinance is in full force, we could see some effect down there to limit us having to go back down there time and time again to clean up that mess. And I sent a email to staff requesting a cost associated with that cleanup. I'm not just talking the cost of taking stuff to the dump, which has been reported, but I'm talking cost in terms of manpower, times their wages per hour number, because I've seen dozens and dozens of people from various departments down there dealing with this mess all day long. I want to know the cost in there and cost of rental equipment. I know that crane isn't cheap. Operating a crane, that's a very specialized piece of equipment. And I know it's a very expensive piece of equipment, so I'm sure there's a cost associated with that. So I know it's going to take time to get those numbers together. So, I'm going to be patient, but, I want a full accounting of what the total cost is, regardless of what pot of money that's being paid with. I think taxpayers in town here need to know what that cost is. And, going forward, we look to better ways of managing that problem than, going through this, every 4 or 6 months, it seems. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and questions, Counselor. We'll make sure we get that information to you. Counselor Becerra.
I'll pass. Thank you.
You bet. And how about counselors online? Counselor Vasika, any comments this evening?
I'll pass, but thank you.
You're welcome. And Counselor Cheryl.
I'll pass as well, thank you.
Okay, you bet. All right, folks, that wraps up our council comments this evening. Thanks, everybody, for your comments. And I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:36 p.m. Thank you.